Hi, I'm Fishkeeper B. In this video, I'm going to talk about my experience with my first real community aquarium. Throughout the video, I'll be showing footage from the first iteration of my 20-gallon long, stocked with Diamond Tetras, peppered Corydoras, and a Kribensis. I'm a fish-first guy. A lot of the YouTube tanks are heavily planted and I enjoy looking at them in videos, but that's not my lane. I've always preferred open water with clear swim lanes where you can really see the fish. So what I envisioned was more of a saltwater-style feel in a freshwater tank. Open space, clear swim lanes, and fish moving freely through the water column, where the focus is on how the fish move and how they behave. And because of that, I wanted a variety of behaviors. That is why I chose a community aquarium. When I chose to do a community tank, I thought I understood what that meant. I thought it would be a group of schooling fish, almost acting as accessories to a centerpiece fish. The idea was that everything in the tank would revolve around that one fish, and the overall personality of the tank would be driven by it. For the schooling fish, I chose Diamond Tetras. Based on what I saw, I expected loose schooling from them, which turned out to be both right and wrong. For the bottom, I chose peppered Corydoras. I expected lazy catfish, just sitting in piles on the substrate. That was completely wrong. And for the centerpiece, I chose a Kribensis. I expected her to set the tone of the tank, to define how everything else behaved. That was wrong as well. The first part of that expectation that started to break was the idea of a centerpiece fish. Because what I thought I was building was something predictable. When the tank actually got going, what I had was controlled chaos. The Diamond Tetras started setting the tone pretty early on. A lot of that came down to the species I chose, and how they interacted with each other and the environment. The first thing that surprised me was how intense the hierarchy battles between the Diamond Tetras could get. These were not quick, one-off interactions. They would go at it, establishing dominance, challenging each other, and pushing back when that structure was not settled. At times, it felt like the entire tank was focused on that one thing, and it was not just one dominant fish keeping order. There were constant challenges, shifts, and what I would call full-on civil wars until that hierarchy was finally established. Once it did settle, everything changed. But getting to that point was much more active and much more intense than I expected. Other than the hierarchy battle, the Tetras show a wide range of behaviors. During calmer periods, they school loosely, but when activity picks up, they tighten up and move with purpose. They each have their own personalities. Some are passive, some are not. But all 8 leave the other species alone. They prefer to keep that energy within their own group. For the Corydoras, I expected them to be more social than they are. Most of the time, they do their own thing as individuals. Every couple of days, I might see 3 or 4 resting together on the substrate, but it is not common. They are also much more active than I expected. I think of them as the blue-collar workers of the tank, constantly moving and working the bottom. Garrow, my Kribensis, does her own thing as well. She maintains her own space and has no issue enforcing it, especially with the Corydoras since they share that same area. The chases are short and controlled. Every once in a while she will move up into the water column and check a diamond, but it is not common. Most of the time she is patrolling, inspecting, and keeping to herself. What I actually built was a system. Not a centerpiece with supporting fish around it, but a group of species that were constantly reacting to each other. The Diamond Tetras drive the energy in the tank. When they are active, everything else adjusts around them. When they settle down, the entire tank settles with them. The Corydoras are always working the bottom, constantly moving, breaking things up, keeping the substrate active. They are not just there, they are part of how the tank functions. Garrow holds her space and keeps boundaries in place, but she does not control the tank. She exists within it, just like everything else. Nothing in the tank operates on its own. Movement, activity, even where fish choose to be in the water column changes depending on what everything else is doing. It's not just a collection of fish, it's a system. I'm not sure how much of this came down to the specific species I chose and how much of it comes from the way we tend to label fish. But every fish in this tank surprised me in some way. In different moments, they did not behave the way they are usually described. What I really learned is that there is no clean label you can put on a species of fish. Behavior changes based on a number of factors: social pressure, tank size, hardscape, the other fish in the tank. All of it matters. And one of the more interesting things for me was realizing how much my experience with fishing, and just understanding fish behavior in general, actually transfers into this. Even in a glass box, they are still fish. They still react to pressure. They still establish space. They still adjust to what is around them. The labels do not tell the full story. The turning point for this tank came once the Diamond Tetra hierarchy was established. Up to that point, everything felt unsettled. But once that structure fell into place, the tank changed. It became much more predictable. Personalities started to settle for the most part. Each fish had a clearer place in the tank, and their behavior became easier to understand. Nothing was random anymore. There was a pattern to it. That was the point where it started to make sense. When I started this, I did not know where I was going to end up. The original goal was a saltwater tank. I wanted to get enough experience with freshwater and then move on. But that changed. This tank brought me enough enjoyment and satisfaction that I no longer feel the need for saltwater. Instead, I set my goal on a 40-gallon freshwater tank. I'm still a fish-first guy. What I enjoy most is watching how they interact with each other and with the environment. And at this point, I can read my tank just by watching behavior. If the fish are maintaining their normal movement patterns, everything is fine. If I start seeing stress signals, or what I tell my wife is a fish on the struggle bus, I know something is off. That is probably the biggest thing I learned. I also realized that I am not trying to collect as many species as possible. I understand why people do that, and there is nothing wrong with it. But for me, I would rather learn the fish I already have. I have 14 species now, and I do not plan on adding more anytime soon. My satisfaction comes from understanding how each fish behaves and how they all fit together. What actually matters to me is spending time observing the fish. By observation, I begin to understand patterns. If you take anything from this, understand that there is no single guide that defines a species of fish. Everyone's experience will be different. Sometimes those differences are small, and sometimes they are not. These are living animals, and things do not always go as planned. You can read guides and watch videos, but nothing replaces experience. And just as important, do not let someone else tell you how to enjoy the hobby. If you want a jungle tank, build a jungle. If you want open water, do that. Whatever brings you the most satisfaction is how you should approach it. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Consider liking and subscribing. I'll leave links to my Diamond Tetra and peppered Corydoras experience videos in the description if you want more detail on those species. I also post shorts pretty regularly, and I try to do live streams as well. Until next time.